The first officer who stepped into the small rental house on Carolina Street felt the temperature drop before he crossed the living room. It wasn't the kind of cold that came from an open window or a faulty furnace. It was the kind that settled against the skin like pressure, the kind that made trained men hesitate. His radio crackled behind him as he moved deeper inside, flashlight beam cutting across toys scattered on the floor, and a Bible resting open on a couch cushion. The children were huddled near the doorway, with their grandmother Rosa, while their mother, Latoya Ammons, tried to explain why she had called for help. Something was moving in the house, she said. Something that didn't want them there. The officer didn't believe her at first, but the look in her children's eyes made him stay alert. Latoya had moved into the house in the fall of 2011, hoping for a fresh start for her 3 children. Instead, the strange activity began almost immediately. Doors slammed on their own. Wet footprints appeared across the living room even though no one had been outside. At night, the children complained that someone was pacing around their beds. Rosa heard heavy footsteps climbing the basement stairs, only to find the door locked and the basement empty. The family tried to brush off the incidents, assuming they were mishearing things or that the old house was settling, but the noises continued. Latoya noticed shadows moving where there should have been none and felt someone breathing near her face while she slept. She stayed up later each night, hoping her presence might calm whatever was disturbing them, but the house stayed silent only long enough to unnerve her. By the winter holidays, the children's behavior had changed. The oldest son started having violent outbursts at school and said voices told him to hurt people he loved. The middle child suffered from sudden headaches so severe he cried until he vomited. The youngest began waking up with deep scratches across his arms and stomach, claiming someone in the darkness had done it. Latoya sought help from clergy, doctors, and family members, but no one could explain what was happening inside that house. She kept a notebook of every incident, every injury. Every night her children woke up trembling. Rosa later said the worst part wasn't the noise or the fear, but the feeling that something was weakening the children day by day. Holidays passed in tense silence, with relatives urging Latoya to move, but money was tight, and she believed she could manage it if she stayed strong. In early 2012, things escalated. One night the children were asleep in their shared room when all 3 levitated above their beds, according to Latoya and Rosa. The 2 women screamed until the children dropped back onto the mattresses, with enough force to shake the bed frames. Terrified, they called their church, and a local priest told them to clean the house with oil and prayer. They tried, but the disturbances only intensified. Friends who visited refused to stay long, claiming they felt sick the moment they entered. A neighbor later said the house looked normal from the outside, but you could feel something shift the moment the door opened. Latoya continued asking for help, telling anyone who would listen that whatever was in the home was attacking her children. Few believed her, but the family's fear was unmistakable. The breaking point came when the youngest boy was found unconscious in the basement after claiming he'd been dragged down the stairs. Latoya rushed him to the hospital, where doctors examined him for injuries and signs of trauma. While staff questioned the family, the boy suddenly growled, his voice deeper than his own, then threw himself into a wall with such force that nurses rushed to restrain him. Moments later, according to a nurse's written report, the boy walked backward up a wall until his feet reached the ceiling before flipping over an adult holding him. Hospital staff, shocked and shaken, documented the event in detail. Several workers later said they had never seen a child behave with that strength or move in that manner. Their reports would become central to the investigation that followed. The hospital contacted the Indiana Department of Child Services. Investigators interviewed the family and arranged for the children to be placed under temporary supervision. During one of the visits to the Carolina Street house, a case manager, a police officer, and several other adults stood in the basement examining a section of crumbling concrete. they noticed a patch that looked as if it had been deliberately cut. When they pulled it apart, they found women's press-on nails, a pair of socks, and other items buried beneath. The case manager described the basement as unnaturally cold and said she felt something breathing down her neck, even though no one was behind her. The officer accompanying her reported that his radio malfunctioned repeatedly while inside the home. The group left quickly after hearing a loud growl near the stairs with no identifiable source. A city police captain became involved after reading the initial reports. He expected exaggeration or misinterpretation, but he also trusted the officers already on the case. He reviewed their statements, the hospital documents, and the medical notes describing the wall-walking incident. He decided to visit the house himself, bringing along another officer and a representative from the church. They walked through each room, taking photographs and trying to rule out environmental causes. The captain later said he felt an unusual pressure in the basement, like being watched from behind, even when standing against a wall. His camera malfunctioned several times, and when the pictures were developed, many came out distorted despite working equipment. The priest who had first spoken with the family agreed to perform a blessing on the home. He walked through the rooms with holy water while LaToya and Rosa followed. He reported feeling a sense of hostility in the basement, as if something there resisted him. Afterward, he recommended a full exorcism, but needed approval from higher church authorities. While that was being pursued, he performed a minor rite on LaToya, who said she felt as if something heavy had been pulled off her chest. The children, still under supervision, continued to show signs of stress, but no longer displayed the extreme behaviors seen in the house. The priest recorded everything he observed and submitted a formal request for a major exorcism based on the number of witnesses and documented events. The family eventually moved out of Carolina Street. After they left, the disturbances ceased for them entirely. They regained custody of the children once medical and psychological evaluations cleared them. Local police closed their involvement, though several officers admitted privately that they witnessed events they could not explain. The captain filed a final report, noting that multiple professionals, including medical staff, caseworkers, and law enforcement, had documented unusual occurrences, but the department could not determine a cause. The case entered local legend, but for those involved, it remained a matter of official record rather than rumor. The house on Carolina Street changed hands a few times in the years that followed. Visitors described it as quiet and unremarkable, just another aging home in a neighborhood that had seen better days. But everyone who had stepped inside during that turbulent year remembered the same unsettling feeling, the same cold pressure settling against their skin. Even the officers who refused to discuss the incident publicly admitted that something inside that house had shaken them in a way their training never prepared them for. Some of them later said that the case stayed with them far longer than any crime scene or domestic call. They remembered the hollow sound of their boots on the basement floor, the way the air felt thicker the longer they stayed, and the quiet moments when they caught each other glancing toward the stairs as if waiting for something to move. None of them could explain why they felt that way, and none of them wanted to return after the investigation ended. Before the file was closed, the captain noted that every professional who entered the house reported the same physical reaction: tightness in the chest, a sense of being watched, and an urge to leave as quickly as possible. Even years later, when the house had been emptied and repainted, some officers refused to drive down Carolina Street at night. The case remained one of the few incidents in their careers where reports, witnesses, and physical reactions all pointed to something that defied simple explanation. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.